They ordered Neryssa Quillane to seal the smoke bottles before the dead finished accusing the living. The Black Bottle Archive had never been louder, not with voices. Witness smoke did not speak like a living mouth. It pressed against glass. It darkened when a lie entered the room. It left ash rings under the cork when the dead remembered being silenced too soon. Tonight, every bottle on the eastern wall trembled as Dragon King Orvain Drakemere stood before the inquiry table and laid his royal seal beside a tray of black wax. Seal them forever. That was the sentence the court had chosen before, asking what the bottles contained. Prince Mael Drakemere stood at his brother's right hand in a robe of pale ember silk, handsome, calm, and grieved in exactly the measure the court admired. "It is the safest course," he said. "The archive girl has hoarded dangerous witness smoke for years. No one knows what has been altered." Neryssa stood beneath the archive lamps with soot on her sleeves and iron dust under her nails. The Black Bottle Archive rose around her in narrow shelves of dark glass, each bottle tagged with a dead witness name, a date, and a crime no noble house wanted reopened. Some smoke slept gray, some coiled silver, some pressed black faces against the glass when certain bloodlines entered the room. The court called them dangerous. Neryssa called them unfinished. She had not made the confessions. She had preserved them. For 6 years, dying witnesses had reached the archive before assassins, fever, poison, or convenient accidents erased them. A stable boy who saw a treaty knife change hands. A maid who heard a prince order a gate unbarred. A border rider who lived long enough to name the wrong banner in the dark. Their final witness smoke had been sealed in black glass under archive law. Not voice, not breath. Witness smoke did not solve crimes. It preserved the last pressure placed on truth. A bottle could name a dead witness, a final order, or a hand that interfered with testimony never more than the death had carried. But Prince Mael had brought 3 false bottles before the inquiry, all bearing corrupted tags and unstable smoke. Then he had smiled sadly while the court decided the entire archive was poison. Orvain had believed him. Neryssa had petitioned twice to reopen Garen Pell's bottle. Both requests had returned under royal refusal. The reason written in court hand was family stability. A king who had already buried one scandal preferred a sealed archive to a living question. That was the wound Neryssa kept behind her teeth. The Dragon King had not shouted when he locked her out of the archive that morning. He had simply taken the ring of archive keys from her hand and said, "Until the inquiry is complete, you will not touch the bottles." No cruelty, no rage, only a king choosing blood over records. That was worse. Now he looked at her across the inquiry table, tall and dark, in a black dragon court coat, gold fire dim behind his eyes. If these bottles are lawful, they should accept royal seal. Neryssa lifted her chin. Royal seal is not witness law. A stir moved through the court. Mael's expression softened. Careful, Neryssa. Defying a seal before inquiry only deepens concern. She looked at him. Concern is what powerful men call fear when evidence has a name. Orvain's jaw tightened. One bottle struck its shelf. Hard. The sound cut through the archive like a knuckle against coffin glass. Everyone turned. It was a narrow black bottle on the 3rd shelf, tagged with a strip of burned linen. The label had been scratched. She knew the dead man inside it. Not as a friend, not as a relative, but as a witness whose hands had shaken when he pressed smoke into glass. Garen Pell, a West stair guard, found dead 2 winters ago. Official cause: fall from the battlements. Actual record: sealed before review. Mael's gaze flicked toward the bottle. Only once. Neryssa saw it. Orvain did too, though not enough yet to understand. "Seal the wall," Mael said quickly. "That bottle is unstable." Neryssa stepped in front of the shelf. 2 guards moved. Orvain raised one hand, and they stopped. Not because he trusted her, because the Dragon King did not like anyone deciding the next answer before he did. "What is that bottle?" he asked. Neryssa did not look away from Mael. "A dead witness." Mael gave a soft sigh. "They are all dead witnesses, according to her." "No," Neryssa said. "Some are dead witnesses. Some are false bottles planted among them." The court sharpened around the word planted, Orvain's gold eyes fixed on her. "Can you prove that?" "Yes." Mael's face remained calm. Too calm, but not by opening everything at once, Neryssa said. "Dead witnesses are not court entertainment. Witness smoke answers by name and by need. If you force every bottle open, you make confession into spectacle and truth into chaos." Orvain studied her. For a moment, the room narrowed to the king, the archive keeper, and the trembling bottle between them. "Then choose one," he said. Mael turned. "Brother?" Orvain did not look at him. "One." Neryssa's hand moved toward the bottle. A guard caught her wrist. The old archive key marks around her fingers glowed faintly, angry at restraint. Orvain saw the glow. So did Mael. "Release her," the king said. The guard obeyed. Neryssa took the black bottle from the shelf. It was cold, colder than it should have been, and the witness smoke inside shrank from the royal seal on the table. Not from Orvain, from Mael. Neryssa set the bottle upright before the inquiry. "Name the dead," Orvain said. She swallowed once. "Not from fear, from respect." "Garin Pell," she said. "West Stairguard. Witness sealed on the 17th night of frost, second winter after the Thorngate fire." The bottle cracked. Mael stepped back, only half a step. The glass did not shatter. It opened along a seam no hand had cut. Black smoke rose slowly, thick and deliberate, forming the outline of a man's face with hollow cheeks and frightened eyes. The court recoiled. The smoke turned toward Orvain first, then toward Mael. Ash gathered in the air. Not sound, not breath, words. A confession burned itself in smoke between the brothers. West Stair cleared by Prince Mael's order before the witness fell. Orvain went still. Mael's grief disappeared for one heartbeat too long. Then the bottle released one final line, darker than the first. "Lock Neryssa out before she finds the false bottles." Mael recovered before his brother did. That was the most frightening thing Neryssa Quillane saw. The witness smoke did not accuse murder. It still hung between the brothers, thin and black, its last words darkening the air above the inquiry table. "Lock Neryssa out before she finds the false bottles." Dragon King Orvain Drakemere had gone utterly still. His gold fire did not flare. His voice did not rise. He looked at the smoke the way a man looked at a sealed door he had ordered shut, only to hear someone bleeding behind it. Prince Mael Drakemere touched one hand to his chest and gave the court grief again. Not panic, grief. Garin Pell was a troubled guard, he said. The West Stair was cleared under security protocol after threats against the royal family. That is not murder. The court breathed with him because he had given them a way to breathe. Neryssa did not move. The opened bottle trembled on the table. Garin Pell's smoke face had already faded to a hollow outline. Witness smoke did not remain forever after release. It preserved pressure. It gave what the death carried. Then it thinned. Mael looked at Orvain. "Brother, you know how many stairways were sealed after Thorngate. A guard falling later does not turn security into crime." Orvain's gaze remained on the fading smoke. "It turns refusal into a mistake." Neryssa felt the words strike her, but she did not soften. Mistake was too small for 2 denied petitions and a locked archive. Orvain looked at her. What false bottles? No apology, no defense. Only the next question he should have asked months ago. Neryssa held his gaze. The 3 Prince Mael brought to condemn the archive. Mael gave a weary smile. Convenient. The bottles that prove your danger are the ones you call false. No, Neryssa said. The bottles that lack death pressure are the ones I call false. A murmur moved through the inquiry chamber. Orvain's eyes sharpened. Explain. She looked toward the eastern wall, where 3 bottles sat apart from the others on a red cloth. Mael's evidence. The court's excuse. The reason black wax waited to seal every shelf. Real witness smoke leaves an ash ring under the cork, she said. Not decoration. Pressure. The last weight placed on truth before death. Poison leaves one shape. Fear another. Interference another. Mael folded his hands. Archive superstition. Archive law. She stepped toward the red cloth. 2 guards blocked her. Orvain said, "Let her pass." They obeyed. Neryssa lifted the first bottle without opening it. The glass was black, the tag old-looking, the smoke inside restless. Too restless. This tag says Tovin Rusk. Doc witness. Dead 6 months ago. Mael said, "Correct. No." She turned the bottle toward the lamps. Tovin Rusk's true witness bottle is on the north grief shelf. Blue cord. Water damage near the base. I sealed it myself, while his hands were still warm. The court shifted. Mael's face remained calm. Then perhaps you sealed 2. Neryssa looked at him. A dying man does not make 2 final witnesses for the same death. She set the bottle down and touched the cork. Around its base, the ash ring was smooth. Too smooth. Wrong ash ring, she said. Made by furnace ash, not death. Pressure. Orvain stepped closer. Can the smoke prove it? Not by opening everything. But yes, the Garen Pell bottle knocked once. Weakly. Neryssa glanced at it. No. You have given enough. That quiet sentence changed the room. She was not using the dead as weapons. She was protecting what remained of them. Orvain saw it. Mael saw Orvain say it. The prince moved quickly. Majesty, she is performing sympathy now. Every archive keeper knows how to rub ash under corks and whisper names until frightened smoke reacts. Neryssa picked up the second false bottle. A keeper can dust glass. She cannot teach dead smoke to fear the wrong blood. The smoke inside the second bottle shrank toward the side nearest Mael, not toward Orvain, toward Mael. The court went silent again. Mael's eyes cooled. Smoke moves in drafts. There is no draft in a sealed inquiry chamber. Neryssa set the second bottle beside the first, then lifted the third. This one was heavier. Its dead name tag had been aged with oil and ash, but the corner curled the wrong way. Old archive tags dried inward, toward the glass. This curled outward, away from it. Forged dead. Name tag, she said. Mael sighed. You would accuse any tag not written by your hand. My hand did not write Garen Pell's tag either. She looked at Orvain. But his bottle opened when I named him, because the death inside knew its name. Orvain looked at the 3 bottles. Name these. Neryssa shook her head once. Not yet. The answer hardened the room. Mael seized it. There. She refuses because she knows they will expose her. No, she said. I refuse because false bottles do not contain the dead. If I name the wrong witness over forged smoke, I give the forgery a place to stand. Orvain's jaw tightened. Then how do we test them? Neryssa pointed to the archive ledger chained beneath the inquiry table. Handling dates, death dates, seal dates. Mael's expression flickered. Only once. Enough, Orvain noticed. He reached down and dragged the ledger onto the table. The chain scraped stone. Neryssa's fingers ached at the sight of it. That ledger had been hers to tend, until royal refusal made it evidence against her. Orvain opened to the red cloth entries. The ink looked correct at first. Then Garen Pell's opened bottle released a final thread of smoke. It drifted over the ledger and touched the seal date column. The polished ink blackened. Under it, older numbers rose in gray ash. Neryssa read them aloud. Tovin Rusk. Death date. 4th thaw. Seal date, 6th thaw. She turned the page. Idria Ven. Death date, 9th ashfall. Seal date, 11th ashfall. The 3rd, Calder Hume. Death date, 1st frost. Seal date, 3rd frost. A court scholar frowned. After death is normal. Neryssa looked at him. Not 2 days after, when the body was burned before the smoke was taken, the false bottles began to tremble. Not with confession, with rejection. They had no death pressure to hold them steady. Mael stepped forward. She altered the handling marks. Handling marks can be forged, Neryssa said. Death pressure cannot. Orvain looked from the shrinking smoke to his brother. The 3 bottles on the red cloth cracked at the same time. Ash gathered above them, not into faces, only into one clear line. False bottles sealed after witness death. Orvain looked at the cracked bottles, then at the seal date column blackening in the ledger. His voice did not soften. Who entered them into evidence? Mael answered, before the court scribe could. Emergency reconstructions, he said. The words moved smoothly through the inquiry chamber, polished enough to sound lawful before anyone had time to taste the lie inside them. The 3 cracked bottles on the red cloth trembled where they stood. Their smoke did not rise into faces. It had no dead witnesses to shape. Only furnace ash, forged tags, and unstable gray coils shrinking from the wrong blood. False bottles sealed after witness death. Dragon King Orvain Drakemere kept one hand on the archive ledger. His gold eyes did not leave his brother's face. Emergency reconstructions, he repeated. Mael inclined his head. When witness records are compromised, the court may reconstruct handling evidence to preserve inquiry integrity. Neryssa Quillane looked at him. You cannot reconstruct death. Pressure. Mael's grief returned. Perfectly measured. No one said they were original witness bottles. They were evidence aids. The court breathed again. Not fully, but enough. Mael had done it twice now, given them a narrow bridge away from terror. Neryssa did not move. She had learned that truth often lost its shape when chased too quickly. The dead had given what they could. Garenpel's bottle had thinned to a black stain at the bottom of its glass. She would not force it again. Orvain looked at the chained ledger. Who entered them into evidence? The court scribe lowered his head. The inquiry evidence log will show it, Majesty. Bring it. Mael's hand flexed once at his side. Only once. Neryssa saw. The scribe hurried to the lower table and returned with a narrow black book bound in dragonhide, smaller than the archive ledger, sealed with court wax and 3 witness cords. Inquiry evidence logs were not meant to tell truth. They were meant to tell movement. Who delivered a thing, who received it, whose seal made it lawful enough to stand before a king. Orvain broke the wax. Neryssa heard the sound like a door cracking open in a room full of buried hands. The first pages listed common materials. Witness tray, black wax, royal seal cloth, 3 contested bottles from Prince Mael Drakemere. The writing was clean. Too clean. Every line had the same pressure, the same court-trained curve, the same safe emptiness. Orvain turned the page. Entry hand? The scribe swallowed. Mine. Majesty. By whose instruction? The scribe looked at Mael. There. Again. Mael spoke first. Mine under emergency authority. The archive had already been judged unsafe. Neryssa's mouth tightened. Judged by bottles that had not yet been entered. Mael's eyes cooled. By concerns surrounding your handling practices. A keeper can mishandle dust, Neryssa said. She cannot make a bottle remember a death it never held. Orvain looked at her. What else should be in the log? Archive access mark, she said. No bottle enters inquiry without the shelf mark it came from, the hand that removed it, and the seal that allowed removal. The scribe turned pale. Orvain did not look away from Neryssa. Show me. She stepped toward the evidence log. A guard moved as if to stop her, then remembered too late, who had been wrong twice already. Neryssa placed one finger beside the 3 false bottle entries, not touching the ink. No shelf mark, she said. No removal hand. No archive witness cord. Only court receipt. Mael said, because these were reconstructions, then they should not have been placed among true witness bottles. The false bottles trembled again, not with power, with exposure. Orvain's hand moved to the seal pressed beside the entries. This is mine. The chamber stilled. Neryssa looked at it too. The wax bore the royal refusal seal. Not the inquiry seal, not archive transfer. The same mark that had returned her petitions unread. Family stability. A sealed archive over a living question. Mael's voice softened. Brother, your refusal authorized the lockdown. Once the archive was locked, emergency reconstructions were necessary to review corruption. Orvain went very still. The trap was elegant. If Mael had used Orvain's refusal seal, then the false evidence stood under the king's own past mistake. To condemn the entry was to admit the refusal had been used as a weapon. Neryssa looked at Orvain. A refusal seal can close a door. It cannot make a lie lawful. The words landed hard, not cruelly, cleanly. Orvain's eyes lifted to hers. No apology came. Good. She did not want remorse, while the evidence still bled. She wanted the next lock opened. Can witness smoke test the seal? He asked. Not the witness smoke, Neryssa said. The seal ash. Mael's expression tightened. The royal refusal wax had been burned once to close a petition. Pressed again here to authorize evidence. Wax remembered heat. Ash remembered purpose. Neryssa took the small black knife from the inquiry tray and scraped the edge of the refusal seal. A thin curl of wax ash fell onto the evidence log. Nothing happened. A noble behind her exhaled in relief. Then the 3 false bottles cracked wider. Their furnace ash slid out from under the corks and crawled across the table toward the scraped seal. False ash meeting, royal refusal ash. One made to imitate death. One used to close truth. The ash touched. The evidence log blackened beneath Orvain's hand. Hidden writing surfaced under the clean court entry, burned there by the old pressure of the rejected petitions. Neryssa read it before her voice could shake. Refusal seal applied before evidence submission. The scribe backed away. Mael's face remained calm, but his eyes were no longer grieving. Orvain looked at the log, then at the false bottles, then at the seal he had once allowed to stand between himself and Garin Pell. The ash gathered into one line across the evidence page. False evidence entered under royal refusal seal. Orvain did not touch the ash line at first. False evidence entered under royal refusal seal. The words lay across the inquiry evidence log, like a wound he could not close with command. Around the table, the court held itself still. Mael Drakemere bowed his head. Brother, your refusal seal authorized the archive lockdown. It did not authorize forgery. Neryssa Quillane looked at him. Then someone used the king's refusal to dress false bottles like evidence. Mael's eyes cooled. Or the archive keeper did. A ripple moved through the court. There it was. Not denial. Return of blame. Orvain did not look away from the evidence log. Could she? Neryssa felt the question like a blade pressed flat against the skin. Not cutting yet. Testing. She answered anyway. No. Mael gave a faint sigh. Every keeper knows seal ash. Every keeper knows it, Neryssa said. Only royal office holds refusal wax. Orvain's gold eyes lifted. Where are the refused petitions? The chamber changed. Small sounds vanished. Even Mael's grief went quiet. Neryssa's hands curled once at her sides. My petitions? The 2 you filed for Garin Pell. She looked at him. They were returned unread. Orvain's jaw tightened. Bring them. A court clerk hurried to the sealed petition chest near the western wall. The chest had not been opened during inquiry because refused petitions were considered dead documents. Not evidence, not living law, closed questions. The clerk unlocked it with shaking hands and carried 2 narrow packets to the table. Neryssa knew them before the wax faced upward, her own folded linen, her own archive cord, her own handwriting across the front. Request to reopen witness bottle of Garin Pell. First petition. Second petition. Both bore royal refusal seals. Family stability. A sealed archive over a living question. Orvain broke the first packet. The paper inside was still folded. Not read. He broke the second. Also folded. The court saw. Neryssa did not let satisfaction reach her face. There was none. Being right about abandonment did not make abandonment gentler. Orvain looked at the unbroken inner folds. His voice did not soften. Who processed these? The clerk swallowed. The refusal docket should show it, Majesty, Mael said quickly. Petition routing is handled by several court hands. No one remembers every archive request. Neryssa looked at him. Witness smoke does not need memory from the living. Garin Pell's opened bottle gave one weak tap. She turned toward it at once. No, you have given enough. The bottle settled. That restraint crossed Orvain's face again. The quiet recognition he did not yet deserve to turn into tenderness. Neryssa took the first refused petition and held it beside the false evidence entry. Wax remembers pressure. Refusal seals are not identical if used once. Mael's smile thinned. Now wax has memory too. Wax remembers heat. Ash remembers purpose. Glass remembers pressure. Your problem is that dead things keep better records than courtiers. A few faces lowered. Orvain looked at the clerk. Open the refusal docket. The clerk brought another ledger, thinner than the archive book, bound in pale hide. He opened to the date of Neryssa's first petition. The entry looked ordinary. Received. Reviewed. Refused. Returned. Neryssa leaned closer. Reviewed by whom? The clerk pointed to a small mark beside the line. Royal Family Stability Office. Mael's voice remained smooth. A lawful office. Under whose hand? Orvain asked. The clerk hesitated. Mael answered first. Mine. When matters touched bloodline danger, Orvain looked at him. Mael spread his hand slightly. I protected you from archive poison while Thorn Gate wounds were still fresh. Neryssa's voice came quiet. You protected yourself. From a dead guard. Mael's eyes flashed. Only once. Enough. Orvain took the refused petition and pressed its wax beside the seal ash on the evidence log. Nothing happened. Then Neryssa turned the packet over. There, hidden beneath the lower fold, was a second wax scar. Not a full seal. A lifted impression. Someone had pressed warm wax against the royal refusal seal to copy its mark before the petition was returned. The court leaned forward as one body. Orvain saw it. Mael saw him see it. Neryssa scraped the copied scar with the black knife. A flake of wax fell onto the evidence log. The false bottles trembled, not with witness, but with recognition of the lie that had dressed them. The ash moved. A thin line crawled from the copied wax scar to the cracked red cloth bottles. Then, words formed across the back of Neryssa's refused petition. Royal refusal seal lifted from unread petition. Orvain's face went still. Neryssa looked at him then. Really looked. You did refuse me, she said. But someone used your refusal after you stopped reading. Mael stepped forward. A lifted seal proves only office mishandling. No, Neryssa said. It proves my silence was useful to someone before the inquiry began. The second, refused petition cracked open by itself. Ash rose from its untouched fold and wrote one final line in the air between Neryssa and the brothers. Garin Pell petitions routed through Prince Mael's stability office. Mael did not look at the routed petitions. He looked at Neryssa. That was how she knew he had another answer prepared. The ash words still hung between them, thin and accusing. Garenpel petitions routed through Prince Mael's stability office. Dragon King Orvain Drakemere stood at the inquiry table with Neryssa's unread petitions open before him. His royal refusal seal lay copied in ash beside the false evidence log. The 3 false bottles on the red cloth trembled faintly, cracked but not opened, too empty of death pressure to form a face. Mael's voice came soft. My office received many petitions after Thorngate. Bloodline stability was not vanity. It was survival. Neryssa looked at him. Survival for whom? For the kingdom, Mael said. For the dead you kept quiet? The court stiffened. Orvain's gold eyes moved to her. No apology. No forgiveness asked. Only the next door. What did Garenpel know? He asked. Neryssa did not answer quickly. The question was dangerous, because the dead had not given all of it. Witness smoke could not solve a crime. It could only preserve the last pressure placed on truth. I do not know everything he knew, she said. I know what he came to the archive to protect. Mael's mouth tightened. Convenient uncertainty. No, Neryssa said. Archive law. She reached for the second unread petition. Orvain's hand moved over it first. Not to take, to stop the nearest guard from touching it. That restraint mattered. Not enough, but it mattered. Neryssa unfolded the petition fully. Her first request had been formal, cautious, written like a servant, begging a locked court for permission to breathe. The second had not. The second had been written after she found the scrape marks on Garenpel's tag and realized someone had tried to erase part of his dead name chain. She turned the page. The attached witness slip was gone. Her stomach dropped. There was another sheet. Mael sighed. Now. Missing pages. Neryssa looked at Orvain. I attached a chain note. Garen named a second witness before the smoke sealed. Orvain's jaw hardened. Who? If I knew that, I would not have petitioned to reopen the bottle. Mael stepped forward. Brother, listen to what she's doing. Every answer becomes another missing record only she remembers. Neryssa's voice stayed quiet. Because your office made sure no one else could. The black bottle archive answered with a low sound. Not a knock. Edwal. Glass shifting on old wood. Every bottle on the north grief shelf turned slightly toward the inquiry table. The court recoiled. Neryssa lifted one hand. Do not open. The bottles stopped. Orvain saw the obedience was not command. It was trust. Mael saw that too. His face sharpened. Neryssa moved to the north shelf, where true witness bottles slept under blue cords and grief tags. Her fingers hovered over the row, not touching yet. When a dead witness names another witness, archive law marks the chain with a second ash ring under the tag. If the chain note is removed, the bottle still remembers the pressure of the missing name. Orvain followed her. Can Garen's bottle show it? Not again. He is spent. Then how? She looked at the north shelf. By the absence left in the chain. Mael gave a controlled laugh. You intend to prove a missing witness with missing smoke? No, she said. With the bottle that was moved to hide the gap. She selected a short round bottle sealed under blue cord. Its tag read Edria Ven, one of the false names Mael had used on the red cloth. The court saw it at once. Mael spoke first. Careful. You said that witness was already dead before the false bottle was sealed. This is the real bottle. The difference was visible if one knew how to look. Real death pressure had darkened the cork unevenly. The ash ring beneath it bent inward at one side, shaped by fear interrupted. The blue cord had water damage near the knot. The tag dried toward the glass. Neryssa said it before Orvain. I will not open her fully, she said. Mael's eyes narrowed. Because she will not say what you need? Neryssa looked at him. Because dead witnesses are not kindling. The words quieted the court. She touched the base of Edria Ven's bottle with 2 fingers. Edria Ven, archive runner. Witness sealed 3 nights after Garenpel. Chain pressure only. The bottle did not crack. It did not open. A faint gray smoke gathered under the glass and pressed downward, toward the tag. Neryssa turned the bottle over. There, under the label hidden by old glue, was a second ash ring, broken, cut through. Someone had sliced away the lower half of the chain mark. Orvain's face went still. Who cut it? Neryssa looked toward Mael's stability docket. Whoever removed the chain note from my petition. Mael's voice hardened. Or whoever handled the bottle for 6 years. Neryssa did not look away. A keeper can dust glass. She cannot make 2 real bottles remember the same missing witness. Edriaven's bottle trembled, not opening, only pressing. The severed ash ring darkened. Smoke gathered into one narrow line beneath the tag, thin enough that it cost the witness almost nothing. Not a confession. A name pressure. The missing chain surfaced in ash. Second witness name removed from Garenpel petition. Orvain looked at the line. Then at Mael. Then at Neryssa. His voice came lower. Where would the removed name be kept? Neryssa looked toward the sealed rear cabinet of the inquiry chamber. The cabinet no archive keeper was allowed to touch. Bloodline stability files, she said. Mael's expression did not change, but the oldest bottle in the archive, high on the shadowed back wall, turned black. Mael moved before Orvain reached the rear cabinet. Not fast enough to look guilty, fast enough to look protective. Brother, he said, placing himself between the Dragon King and the sealed black doors. Bloodline stability files are not inquiry scraps. They contain names that could fracture alliances if read carelessly. Neryssa Quillane stood beside Edriaven's bottle, her fingers still near the severed ash ring under its tag. Second witness name removed from Garenpel petition. The line had not faded. Neither had the weight in the room. Dragon King Orvain Drakemere looked at his brother. Move. Mael's face softened. You are angry. I am reading. That is what frightens me. The court stirred at that. A good sentence, Neryssa thought bitterly. Beautiful enough to make concealment sound like loyalty. Orvain did not take the bait. He stepped past Mael and placed one hand on the rear cabinet seal. Gold dragonfire moved under his skin, but the cabinet did not open. It answered with a dull red glow and a hiss of cold ash. Bloodline lock, Neryssa said. Orvain looked at her. Can you open it? No. Mael almost smiled. Neryssa continued. But archive law can ask why it refuses. That smile died. The oldest bottle on the back wall darkened further. It was larger than the others, made of thick black glass veined with dull silver, older than any king in the room. No tag hung from its neck. Only an iron ring circled the cork, marked with the old archive oath. First witness, last seal. The court had never liked that bottle. No court liked anything old enough to remember before royal convenience. Orvain looked at it. What is that? The foundation bottle, Neryssa said. It does not contain one witness. It contains archive law. Mael's voice sharpened. Then it has no place in a murder inquiry. Neryssa looked at him. Neither did false bottles. A thin sound moved through the archive. Not laughter. Glass accepting truth. Orvain's gaze returned to the cabinet. What does it require? A lawful archive question, Neryssa said. Not a royal demand. His jaw tightened. Good. Let him feel the difference. He turned fully toward her. Ask it. Neryssa did not move to the cabinet. She faced the oldest bottle instead and lowered her head, not in worship, but in respect. Foundation witness, she said. A chain name was removed from Garenpel's petition and hidden from inquiry. Under archive law, what category holds it? The oldest bottle did not open. It did not release smoke. It only blackened until the lamps around it dimmed. Then ash gathered inside the glass and pressed outward against the inner wall. One word formed. Risk. Mael exhaled. Every bloodline file is a risk. Neryssa did not answer him. What kind of risk? The bottle darkened again. This time the ash formed 2 words. Family risk. The rear cabinet seal clicked once. Not open. Loosened. Orvain heard it. So did Mael. The Dragon King placed his hand on the seal again. Family risk files. Open. The cabinet doors shuttered and parted 1 finger's width. Cold smoke slipped out. Not witness smoke. Administrative smoke. Dry. Thin. Lifeless. Neryssa hated that smell. The smell of living fear turned into filing. Inside the cabinet were black folders tied with ember cord. Each label bore a royal case mark. Thorngate. West Stair. Archive instability. Bloodline exposure. Orvain reached for West Stair. Mael caught his wrist. The room went silent. Orvain looked at the hand on him. Slowly, Mael released him. Some names should stay buried, Mael said. Neryssa's voice came quiet. Dead witnesses are already buried. You are hiding what they carried. Orvain opened the West Stair file. Most of the pages were summaries. Clean. Careful. Useless. Garin Pell was described as unstable. Neryssa's petition was marked excessive. Her request to reopen the bottle was marked emotionally attached to dangerous evidence. She did not flinch. She had read worse in men's eyes. Then Orvain turned the final page. A strip of burned linen fell onto the table. Neryssa stopped breathing. Her chain note. The missing attachment from her second petition. The lower half was charred, but the heading remained in her hand. Garin Pell named second witness, before smoke seal. Below it, another hand had written a classification across the margin. Family risk do not return to archive. Orvain's face went cold. Mael said, A classification is not a crime. No, Neryssa said. It is where a crime goes when power wants quiet. The foundation bottle struck its shelf once. The sound went through every bottle in the archive. Orvain lifted the burned chain note. The name? Neryssa looked at the charred lower half. Gone. Almost. A single letter remained in ash near the torn edge. Not enough to name. Enough to point. M. The court looked toward Mael before anyone could stop themselves. Mael smiled faintly. Half the royal house begins with M. The oldest bottle darkened again. This time, it did not write on glass. It sent a thread of black ash across the table, touching the folder label, the burned petition, and the cabinet seal. Words formed on the bloodline file. Second witness hidden as family risk. The letter M did more damage than a full name would have. A full name could be argued. A single surviving letter made everyone in the inquiry chamber look toward the royal bloodline before they could stop themselves. Mael Drakemere smiled as if the room had merely embarrassed itself. You see, fear makes fools of good witnesses. Half the royal house begins with M. Neryssa Quillane looked at the burned chain note in Orvain's hand. Garin Pell had named a second witness before smoke seal. That witness had been hidden as family risk, and someone had burned the name down to one letter. Dragon King Orvain Drakemere did not move quickly. That was dangerous in its own way. His face had become too still, his gold fire low behind his eyes. Find the name, he said. Mael's voice sharpened. From one letter? No, Neryssa said. From the chain. The oldest bottle on the back wall remained black. It did not open. It did not spill truth for spectacle. It only watched the room with the weight of archive law. Neryssa turned toward the west shelves. A witness chain cannot vanish completely. If a dead witness names another, the archive records pressure in 3 places: the petition, the original bottle, and the chain shelf. Mael's brows lifted. And yet, you never mentioned this before. I was locked out before I could inspect it. The words went to Orvain without looking at him. He took them, did not defend himself, did not apologize. Show me the chain shelf, he said. The court followed because fear had become curiosity, and curiosity had become self-preservation. Neryssa led them to a narrow alcove behind the west pillar, where small flat bottles were kept sideways in bronze brackets. Chain bottles were not full witness records. They held no face, no final confession, no death scene. They preserved only connection. Name to name. Pressure to pressure. Truth to the next door. The shelf had one empty bracket. Neryssa stopped before it. There should have been dust. There was none. Someone had cleaned only that space. She lifted her hand toward the empty bracket, but did not touch it. This was removed recently. Mael gave a soft sigh. A missing bottle in your archive proves your disorder, not my crime. Neryssa looked at him. Then why was only the absence cleaned? A guard shifted. Orvain saw the empty space, the clean bracket, the old dust around it. What was stored there? Neryssa crouched and looked beneath the shelf. Old archive shelves were carved with underside cuts for blind indexing, made in years when smoke had blinded the first keepers. Her fingers traced the marks without touching the missing bracket. M, she said. Not royal index, servant index. The room changed. Less dramatic than a confession, more dangerous. Mael's expression remained smooth. Servant names are many. Yes, Neryssa said. And courts lose them easily. She found the lower notch. Myra Throw. No one reacted at first. That was the point. The powerful rarely recognized the names that cleaned blood from their stairways. Orvain looked at the court scribe. Who was Myra Throw? The scribe searched his memory and failed. Neryssa answered. Laundry runner, West Wing. She handled staircloth after Thorngate and carried ash linens to the archive twice. Garin Pell named her before he sealed smoke. Mael said, If she mattered, where is her bottle? Neryssa looked at the empty bracket. That is what someone wanted no one to ask. The chain shelf trembled. Not the whole archive. Only the empty space. A thin line of gray ash gathered in the clean bracket, drawn from dust that had not been there a moment ago. It did not form a face. It did not accuse. It only marked the shape of what had been removed. Orvain stepped closer. Was she dead? Neryssa's throat tightened. That was the right question. Archive law only protected final witness smoke after death, or sworn dying testimony. But a living witness could be moved, renamed, bought, hidden, or declared transferred before the archive ever claimed her. Neryssa turned to the court scribe. Bring the servant transfer register. Mael moved. Majesty, this is beyond the inquiry. Orvain looked at him. Everything hidden in my family files seems to be beyond inquiry, until Neryssa asks for it. The words struck the room hard. Not soft. Not romantic. Useful? The transfer register was brought from the clerk's chest. It was a plain book, cheap paper, no gold edging, no royal cord. Servant movements did not merit better materials. Neryssa opened to the second winter after Thorngate. Her finger found the West Wing list. Myra Throw. Transferred. Not dead. Not dismissed. Transferred to the Ashward Infirmary under family risk protection. No destination seal. No receiving mark. No witness signature. Only Mael's stability office mark in the margin. Orvain leaned over the page. His jaw tightened. Mael spoke calmly. Ashward transfers were common after Thorngate. Smoke sickness. Trauma. Servants forget things under fear. Neryssa looked at him. Or remember too much. The empty bracket on the chain shelf knocked once. The sound was small. Everyone heard it. Ash slid from the bracket to the transfer register, darkening the line under Myra Throw's name. Words surfaced across the cheap paper, thin but clear. Second witness moved as living transfer under family risk. Orvain looked at the mark beside the transfer, then at Mael. Where is Ashward's receiving seal? He asked. Mael did not answer quickly enough. Neryssa closed the register halfway, her fingers steady on the page. She was not transferred to be healed, she said. She was transferred so no bottle could claim her. Orvain sent riders before Mael could polish his silence into law. Not soldiers. Record riders. That mattered. Soldiers could be accused of intimidation. Record writers carried seal kits, route books, and witness lamps. They could not arrest a prince, but they could ask a road what passed over it and make the answer hard to bury. Mael watched the riders leave the inquiry chamber with a faint crease between his brows. You send royal riders after a servant transfer? Dragon King Orvain Drakemere. Sure, Ymir did not look at him. I send them after a missing receiving seal. Neryssa Quillane stood beside the open servant register, one hand resting near Myrith Rowe's name without covering it. Second witness moved as living transfer under family risk. The words had faded from ash to stain, but the cheap paper kept the mark. Cheap things often did. They were handled too roughly to learn courtly forgetting. Mael folded his hands. Ashward Infirmary was overwhelmed after Thorngate. Many receiving seals were delayed. Delayed is not absent, Neryssa said. He looked at her. You speak as if you ran the infirmaries too. No, I ran an archive. That taught me what people omit when they want a body to disappear without making it dead. A few courtiers looked away. Orvain heard the silence and used it. Bring the route ledger. The court scribe hesitated. Majesty, servant route ledgers are kept with stable accounts. Then bring stable accounts. Mael's smile returned. Thinner now. Brother, this inquiry began with dangerous smoke bottles. Neryssa is expanding it into every loose thread in the palace. Neryssa looked at Orvain before Mael could turn the sentence into command. A witness chain is not a loose thread. Orvain's gold eyes met hers. Then follow it. Still no apology. Still no softening. Good. The stable accounts arrived in a leather bundle smelling of rain, horse sweat, and old ink. Neryssa took them only after Orvain nodded. She would not let anyone say she had seized royal records under panic. She opened to the week of Myrith Rowe's supposed transfer. Ashward route. 3 infirmary carts. Fever cloths. Burn salve. 2 injured kitchen boys. 1 laundry runner under family risk protection. Myrith. The line looked whole. Too whole. Neryssa touched the left margin. Where is the road ash? The stable master blinked. My lady? I am not your lady. His face colored. She did not care. Any road crossing after Thorngate required ash from the departure arch and receiving arch pressed into the margin to prove the person traveled the named road. The stable master looked at the page. The departure ash was there, black and grainy from the palace south arch. The receiving space was pale. Empty. Mael said. Ashward ran out of road ash for months. Neryssa did not look up. Road ash is scraped from stone. A quiet sound moved through the chamber. Not laughter. Recognition. Orvain leaned closer. Could the entry be made without travel? Yes, Neryssa said. But not without a cart mark. She turned the ledger sideways. Under the ink, barely visible, was the pressure mark of a wheel stamp. Each royal cart had one, carved into the axle cap and pressed into soft wax beneath travel entries. This one was wrong. Not infirmary wheel. Dragon Road wheel. Private. Royal family. Mael's voice sharpened. Many carts share axle plates. No, the stable master whispered. Everyone looked at him. He swallowed. No, Highness. Dragon Road wheels are sealed for private family routes. They do not carry infirmary transfers. Mael's eyes cut toward him. The stable master lowered his head. But the damage was done. Orvain's hand settled on the ledger. Whose Dragon Road? The stable master did not answer. Neryssa did. Ask the axle wax. Mael almost laughed. Now wheels confess too. No, Neryssa said. Wax keeps pressure, that is all. You keep expecting dead matter to lie as elegantly as living men. Orvain took the black knife and shaved a thin curl from beneath the root entry. Neryssa did not touch it. She only held a witness lamp over the page. The flame burned blue, then green, then black. A private Dragon Road mark surfaced under the wax. A crowned ember serpent biting its tail. Mael's personal root seal. The court did not gasp this time. They were past gasping. Mael lifted his chin. I ordered many private removals after Thorngate. The palace was under threat. A laundry runner may have been moved quietly for her own safety. Then where is the safety destination? Orvain asked. Mael's mouth closed. The route ledger answered before he did, but not with smoke. The missing receiving space darkened from the witness lamp's heat. Words emerged in the blank margin, made from pressure hidden under erased wax. Ashward receiving seal, never applied. Neryssa turned a page. The next line had been scraped almost white. She held the lamp lower. Another mark surfaced. Private Dragon Road used in place of infirmary route. Orvain's face went cold enough that even the lamps seemed to lean away. Mael spoke softly. Brother, think. If someone wanted to frame me, private route marks would be the easiest thing to plant. Neryssa looked at him. Not if the axle wax is old. The stable master nodded before fear could stop him. Old wax yellows at the edge. Fresh wax stays red. The mark under Myrith's line had yellowed into the paper. 2 winters old. Orvain looked at Mael. Where did your road take her? Mael's expression settled into sorrow again. I do not remember every frightened servant moved after a fire. The west chain shelf knocked once. Not the missing bracket. A lower bracket. Neryssa turned. A flat chain bottle with a cracked blue cord had shifted forward. It did not open. It only exposed the underside of its label, where a route notation had been hidden in a keeper's shorthand. Neryssa read it aloud. South Arch. No Ashward Bell. Embermere Lower Road. Mael's face changed. Only for a heartbeat. But Orvain saw it. The witness lamp flared black over the route ledger, and the next line burned through the scraped page. Myrith Row diverted from Ashward to Mael's private Dragon Road. The inquiry did not wait for dawn. Orvain Drakemere ordered the Embermere Lower Road sealed before the last ash cooled on the route ledger. Not by soldiers. By archive writers and road witnesses. Neryssa Quillane watched the command pass from mouth to mouth, each word losing a little royal pride and gaining a little usefulness. Mael stood very still. That frightened her more than his arguments. A desperate guilty man shouted. A practiced one. Counted exits. The private Dragon Road mark still burned faintly in the ledger. Myrith Row. Diverted from Ashward to Mael's private Dragon Road. Orvain looked at Neryssa. If she reached Embermere, can archive law claim her? No, Neryssa said. The court stirred. Mael seized the answer. At last, a limit. Neryssa turned to him. Archive law does not claim the living. That is why she was moved alive. The words landed with more force than smoke. Orvain's eyes sharpened. Then what law protects her? Witness custody, Neryssa said. If the court still remembers it exists. The oldest bottle on the back wall gave no answer. It did not need to. Living law belonged to living mouths. A rider returned near midnight with rain in his hair and a sealed packet under his cloak. The chamber had grown cold by then. Courtiers had stopped whispering. Even boredom had become dangerous. The rider knelt. Embermere Lower Road confirms passage, Majesty. Private family cart. 2 winters old. 1 passenger registered under protection name. Orvain took the packet. Name. The rider swallowed. Mira Dorn. Neryssa closed her eyes once. Myrith Row. Mira Dorn. A name cut down and restitched. Mael spoke softly. A common protection change. Threatened servants were renamed after Thorngate. Neryssa opened her eyes. Protection names are recorded with receiving witness signatures. The rider looked toward her, grateful for the question he had feared to offer. There is no receiving witness signature. Orvain broke the packet seal. Inside were 3 things. A route copy, a black thread bracelet, and a strip of pale cloth marked with a handprint in faded ash. Neryssa stepped forward before she could stop herself. The handprint was small, a woman's, work-worn, pressed with the heel of the palm slightly dragged, as if the hand had trembled or been held down. Orvain saw her face change. "You know it? I know the mark." Her voice came rougher than she wanted. Archive runners used ash hand confirmation when they carried sealed witness cloth. Myrith brought stair linens after Thorngate. Her right thumb bent inward. "This handprint matches." Mael smiled sadly. "So she survived. Then your entire theory of murdered witness smoke collapses." "No," Neryssa said. "It explains why there was no bottle." The room held its breath. She touched the black thread bracelet with the back of one fingernail. The thread was not jewelry. It was oath-binding cord, used in private houses when a servant was placed under silence contract. Orvain's voice lowered. "What is that?" "Silence mark." Mael said. "Protection cord." Neryssa looked at him. "Protection does not bind the tongue." Mael's grief thinned at the edges. "You are not a contract keeper. No. I am the woman who stores what contracts try to bury." The black cord twitched. Not with witness smoke, with heat. Oath-binding thread responded to the hand that made the oath, and the fear that kept it. Neryssa did not touch it fully. A living witness might still be attached to the other end of that silence, and she would not pull pain through a woman's throat for spectacle. Orvain noticed her restraint. "Can it be tested without harming her?" "Yes," she said. "Ask the cord who holds the knot." Not what she was forced to silence. Mael's voice sharpened. "Brother, this is absurd. A thread cannot testify." Neryssa did not look at him. "No, it can identify custody." Orvain stepped back from the table. "Do it." She placed the black thread bracelet on the route ledger, beside the private Dragon Road mark. Then she set the witness lamp near it, not over it. Too much heat could wake the silence wrong. The flame bent low. Blue, then black. The cord tightened by itself. A small knot rose from the bracelet, turning outward like an eye. Pressed into the knot was a seal. No servant protection office had authority to use. Prince Mael's private signet. A crowned ember serpent biting its tail. The same mark as the Dragon Road. The court went deathly quiet. Mael said nothing. For the first time that night, nothing was his worst answer. Orvain looked at the knot, as if it had wrapped around his own throat. "Where is she now?" The rider bowed his head. "Embermere records say Miradorn died of smoke fever 9 months ago." Neryssa's stomach sank. Then the black cord tightened again. The witness lamp flared, and the ash handprint darkened across the pale cloth. Not into words, into pressure. A living palm pressing from the other side of silence. Neryssa leaned closer. "She is not dead," she whispered. Orvain turned to her. Neryssa pointed to the thumb. It had dragged twice. Old archive distress sign. Used by runners when watched. Alive under false death. The black cord burned one line into the root copy. Myrith Row held alive, under Prince Mael's silence mark. Orvain looked at his brother. Mael's face was no longer grieving. It was empty. Neryssa did not step back when the Dragon King's shadow stretched across the table. "Bring her," Orvain said. Mael smiled then, very faintly. "You will have to find which grave is lying first." By first light, the grave markers of Embermere arrived in the Black Bottle archive under guard. They were not bodies. Not yet. They were thin black slates taken from the lower cemetery, each marked with ash, date, and burial claim. Orvain Drakemere had not sent soldiers to tear open graves in darkness. Neryssa Quillane had stopped him before fury could become damage. Graves keep law, too, she had said. He had listened. That mattered. Not enough to erase what he had refused before. Enough to keep the living witness from being buried twice. Now the slates lay across the inquiry table beside the route ledger. The silence cord. The false bottles. Neryssa's unread petitions. And the bloodline stability file that had swallowed Garen Pell's second witness name. Mael Drakemere stood across from them in perfect stillness. Not grief now. Calculation. The court had stopped breathing with him. That was the first sign his power was thinning. Orvain looked at Neryssa. Which grave? She did not reach for the slates at once. No one opens a grave because a king is angry. His eyes held hers. No, he said. We open a record because archive law requires it. Neryssa looked down before the court could see what that answer did to her. Not forgiveness. Recognition. She selected the slate marked Mira Dorn. Smoke fever. Buried 9 months ago. No family claim. No witness present. The burial ash around the name was pale. Too pale. Grave ash should carry bone cold, she said. This carries kiln heat. Mael's mouth curved faintly. So now grave ash also fails your standards? No, Neryssa said. It fails death. She placed the black silence cord beside the slate. The knot bearing Mael's private signet tightened, then pulled toward the slate, as if dragged by an unseen hand. Not toward the burial date, toward the name. Mira Dorn, a protection name sewn over Myrith Row. The witness lamp burned low. Neryssa did not heat the cord fully. She would not tear testimony through a living throat. Instead, she asked the only lawful question left. Who holds the living end? The cord writhed. Mael stepped forward. Enough. Orvain moved once, not dramatically. Just enough that the shadow of a Dragon King fell between his brother and the table. No, he said. The cord snapped straight. Ash lifted from the false grave slate and crawled into 3 words. Lower Embermere Vault. Not a confession. A direction. Orvain turned to the record writers. Go. Neryssa spoke before they moved. With witness lamps. No blades unless attacked. If she is alive, she is not evidence first. She is a woman. The command chamber went silent. Orvain repeated it. She is not evidence first. The riders left. Mael looked at his brother then. Truly looked. As if measuring whether blood still outweighed truth. You would ruin the Drakemere line over a laundry runner? He asked. Neryssa answered before Orvain could. No. You risked the Drakemere line because you thought a laundry runner could not ruin you. Mael's face hardened. At noon, the riders returned with a woman wrapped in a gray cloak. She was thin, alive. Her hair had been cut short to change her shape. Her right thumb bent inward exactly as Neryssa remembered from the ash hand mark. Around her throat lay a pale scar where silence magic had sat too long. Myrith Row did not look at Mael first. She looked at the bottles, then at Neryssa. You kept them? She whispered. Neryssa's throat tightened. As much as I could. Orvain stepped back from the inquiry table, giving Myrith space no court had given her in years. You are under witness custody now. No bloodline office may touch you. Myrith flinched at his voice. He saw it. He did not soften into apology for the court to admire. He lowered his head once. Then he stepped farther back. Neryssa respected that more than any pretty regret. Myrith placed one trembling hand on the table. The silence cord burned black and fell open. No scream came from her. No forced confession. Only breath. Her own. I was told Garen fell, she said. But he was alive when they dragged him from the west stair. Mael laughed once. Careful. A frightened servant remembers what she was taught. Myrith looked at him. You taught me silence. Not memory. The court went still. She turned to Orvain, but her voice shook less when she spoke to Neryssa. Garen saw Prince Mael's men move the Thorngate treaty knife through the west stair after the fire. He saw the blade wrapped in royal linen. He named me because I washed the ash from it. Mael said, Lies. The oldest bottle on the back wall did not open. It did not need to. This was living testimony. Neryssa asked, Did anyone force you to sign Mira Dorn? Myrith touched the scar at her throat. Mael's stability office. They said if I stayed dead on paper, the king would keep his throne, and my sisters would keep their food. Orvain closed his eyes once. When he opened them, The dragon fire in them had changed. Not larger, cleaner. He turned to the court. Prince Mael Drakemere is stripped of bloodline, stability authority, royal evidence access, and all witness custody claims. He will stand under archive inquiry, not family privilege. Mael's mask cracked. You would place your brother under a servant's law? No, Orvain said. Under witness law. The law I should have read before I sealed her out. The words crossed the chamber like a blade laid flat. Neryssa did not look away from him. He did not ask her to make that enough. Good. Orvain placed his royal seal on the table, then pushed it toward Neryssa. The Black Bottle Archive will no longer answer to bloodline stability. No prince, king, council, or royal office may seal witness smoke without archive chain, living witness review, and public evidence log. The foundation bottle darkened, not in warning, in acceptance. Neryssa looked at the seal. I will not hold royal law for you. No, Orvain said. You will hold archive law against me. Only then did she take the seal, not as gift. As burden returned to its rightful hand, Mael lunged for the evidence log. The false bottles shattered before he reached it, not into smoke, into black glass dust. Empty things broke easily once no one believed in them. Guards seized him. He did not confess. Men like Mael rarely gave truth when silence had served them so well. But Myrith stood living. Garen's bottle had named pressure. The route ledger held the road. The refusal seal held the forgery. The evidence chain no longer needed his permission to exist. By dusk, the Black Bottle Archive reopened. Not quietly, publicly. Neryssa restored the true bottles to their shelves, one by one. Tovin Rusk, Edria Ven, Calder Hume, Garen Pell. Each name spoken once. No spectacle. No hunger from the court. Witness, not entertainment. Orvain stood at the archive threshold and did not enter until she allowed it. When she finally looked at him, he said, I locked you out before I understood what you protected. Yes, she said. I refused you twice. Yes, I cannot undo that. No. His mouth tightened, but he accepted each answer without reaching for forgiveness. What can I do? He asked. Neryssa turned toward the shelves where the bottles rested under low black light. Read before sealing. Ask before condemning. And when truth stops serving your family, do not call it dangerous. Orvain bowed his head. Not to a chosen bride. Not to a court favorite. To the keeper of the dead he had failed to hear. Weeks later, the Black Bottle Archive no longer sounded like trapped glass in the dark. Petitioners came through the front doors. Living witnesses entered under guard that protected them from power, not for it. Refused requests could not be buried without public mark. Bloodline files were opened under witness chain. Neryssa still worked with soot on her sleeves and iron dust under her nails. Sometimes Orvain came at night and stood beyond the threshold, holding no command, no seal, no excuse. He would ask, May I enter? And Neryssa, when the archive allowed it, would answer, Read first. The bottles would remain silent then, not because truth was gone, because, at last, someone living had begun to listen.